You're watching Byline Wilmington on CBS 10 WILM. Here's your host, Don Ansell.
We're back. David Redwine and Dr. Walter Futch, Mayor of Leland, are our guests. We're talking about the Skyway project. If you're just joining us, we were chatting off camera, and all the good conversation was just because David, let me be transparent here. You said that this will not happen if people don't want it to happen.
Exactly. It's been a turnpike policy since I've been on the board that if there's not support in the community for it, Turnpike Authority would rather not do it. There are other projects that Turnpike Authority is involved in where they're welcomed and needed, and so we would go there. At
the public hearing that I referenced before that Leland held, and I think, Mayor, that you organized that, I got the distinct impression that the Turnpike Authority wanted this to happen. Well, was I off? Did I misread that?
Well, this is one member of the Turnpike Authority that has not made up his mind one way or the other. I'm still waiting to see what all the answers to some of these questions are going to be and whether or not the community is going to support it, quite frankly. And I don't think the other Turnpike Authority members have made up their mind. They're waiting to see the answer to the same questions I am, and if there is community support. And if there's not, the executive director all the way to the board have said, we've got 4 other projects that we need to manage, and plus, when they get built, operate the toll road in and of itself. So they'll have plenty to do whether this project goes or doesn't go.
The previous member of the Turnpike Authority from this area certainly wanted it to happen. He's the one you say that most probably got it started and was a huge supporter of it, Lonnie Wilson.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't know who his replacement will be on the Turnpike Authority, if that person will be in this region or not. Perhaps that person will be a big supporter and pusher of it. But the other person on the Turnpike Authority from the region, myself, I'm still listening and trying to learn what's the best thing to do.
Now, you organized that hearing. Was your impression that Turnpike Authority definitely wanted this to happen? Their engineer said if we miss this opportunity, we're missing a big opportunity, their own engineer.
Well, the pressure has been on Leland to reserve a corridor. And until a corridor was drawn directly through our town, we had not really been involved in the process. A corridor was drawn that went between 2 of our major developments that'll be about 12,000 homes, which is pretty major for us. And when you cut right through the middle of that and separate the 2 with the toll road that has no entrances and exits, and it's not a local road, then essentially you build a wall through the middle. That's when we got involved in it. Up until that point, what the state did with their $1 billion was up to them. But at this point, they're playing with our money, and we want to know what's going on.
Let's move. I said before we went to break that we were talking about the Cape Fear Memorial Bridge. It's on a list, a federal list of highly impaired bridges. Why isn't that brought up to standards before money is spent on a new project? I know they're painting it, and that's going to stop further corrosion, but it's not. It's an aging bridge. It's highly impaired according to the federal government. Why isn't that brought up to standard first?
Well, that issue is not on the purview of the Turnpike Authority. That is under the purview of the Department of Transportation. I can't answer that for you. I don't know if Walter can or not, but I guess it's a priority within the department as to what gets fixed first, and hopefully that would be one of them. But they'd have to answer that question. I can't.
Would that make sense to you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if it's a bridge in stress, obviously the state should do something to improve it and make sure it is safe, without a doubt.
Now, the state has a mandate that you must have free access across the Cape Fear River. We have 2, the Isabel Stellings Holmes Bridge, the Cape Fear Memorial Bridge. You think that there's some unspoken agenda to get rid of the Cape Fear Memorial Bridge at some point? There'd still be a free access if the Skyway is built. What do you think?
Well, they've said no, and what I see in all this is if as David says, there's not going to be a Skyway if we don't want it, but there's a need for it, then what's the plan B? Is the plan B to build another bridge where the Cape Fear Memorial Bridge is? That's a high level that doesn't need to open. Is the plan B to build a tunnel? I mean, I haven't heard that brought up. One of the things that bothers me about dealing with DOT is they're an all or none group. It's like you take what we're going to give you or you get nothing. And that's sort of the way this thing is with the Skyway. Is it, if you don't want the $1.1 billion bridge, then we'll take our money and go somewhere else. Well, that's not what we're saying. We think that it ought to be option A, option B, option C, pick from the few.
How do you answer that?
Well, we haven't gotten to the option stage yet. Spaghetti is on the map, and the federal law requires, based on the environmental impact statements that we have to do, that they look at a number of alternatives. I mean, the one Walter's talking about, building a wall through the middle of Leland, that may not be the alternative that is most environmentally attractive. So who knows where this is going, and all of this is in flux. I mean, there's a lot of fluidity to this thing as to where the route's going to go. I mean, do the bond markets improve? Does the cost go up or down? Do we get these other segments tolled to make it economically feasible? I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there that's got to be answered yet. So I think it's premature from myself and for Walter, for that matter, well, for myself at least, to be taking a concrete position on this, because we still need to gather a lot of information about this thing, and of course the route's important, but there are a lot of different options out there in terms of a route, and we're trying to decide that based on a lot of elements: Snee Farm, Leland, Magnolia Greens, Brunswick Forest, environmental factors, cost involved. So there's a lot of things out there to work on, and we want to do the best job we can to pick the best route.
I keep hearing, if this won't be built if the residents don't want it built. How will you know? How do we know? Unless you take a vote on it. I mean, unless it's on a ballot.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, Walter Futch is a fine leader in the Leland community and represents a great number of people. His voice is going to go a long way to determining how I feel about it, along with others.
So if the mayor of Leland says we don't want this Skyway project, we may want an alternative, then it won't get built? Is that?
Well, I'm not saying it's that simple, but his voice certainly will weigh heavily in my thinking. But that said, there are other voices as well.
Where do you stand right now? We got about 30 seconds.
Well, I still have 140 questions that Turnpike Authority hadn't answered, and I'd like to see the answers
they'll be to you April the 1st.
Good. You know, we're on pressure from the MPO to adopt a corridor at this point, and it's just like he said, there's a spaghetti on there and we want to pick one. I don't agree.
We're out of time, but this will continue to be an issue, and perhaps we'll touch on it again. Thanks for joining us. If you'd like to see some of our shows that we've done on Byline online, go to WILM-TV.com. When you get there, click on Byline Wilmington. I'm Don Ansell. Have a great Sunday.
You've been watching Byline Wilmington on CBS 10 WILM. Join us every Sunday morning at 11 as we explore the issues that concern you.